canceled 3 international trips this year, clinic trips.
Mm-hmm.
And every soon-to-be contract I had in the US did not follow through for really good reasons. And I don't see how I can do a clinic without flying there 2 weeks early, isolating, giving the clinic, coming home, and then isolating here for 2 weeks.
Right.
And I just think it is so crucial to be safe and considerate of others in this pandemic. So yeah, I was out of work.
Right.
Quite simply, I was out of work. And so, about a year before that, I had started an online program, and that was going really well. We were sharing videos in kind of an interesting way. And so I decided to try to do some online courses. And those are done by all of us in a Zoom meeting. And everybody takes videos through the week. And then in the meeting, we looked at the videos. And these classes were just going really, really well. And so I decided to try a clinic. So how this works is, one more time, in a Zoom meeting, there are however many riders there would be in the clinic. And when I do clinics, I do something I call a concept clinic. And what that means is that there's one topic for the weekend. And I think sometimes I would go to clinics in the past, and everybody would just kind of have individual lessons all day long. And it was really valuable. You got this wide range of topics. But I started to think that I really wanted to do a clinic where, for instance, all we talked about was calming signals. And that would involve riding lessons, but we would talk, and I would work at the level of the rider, but we would talk about calming signals in the lesson and how to relate to them. And so because I was approaching clinics that way anyway, switching again to a Zoom format was pretty easy. And so it involves having a ground person who can film you. You could be filmed with either a cell phone or a tablet that has a Zoom app on it. That's it.
That's it.
And I have to tell you, with all the online teaching that I'm doing, the biggest challenge is that we are horse people. And it isn't that we don't like technology, it's that we hate it. And so I have this instance now where there are a ton of people who have taken an online course, and I mean, they just sign up for the next one and the next one and the next one. They are true believers. And for the people who are hesitant about it, well, yeah, we all live in the country, and none of us have good internet, and still it works. And so if it were a Zoom meeting for us right now, there would be this Hollywood Squares sort of thing. And if it was your ride, Anna, you'd leave, wander out of the meeting to go tack up your horse. And then I would highlight your screen so everybody's looking at you and listening to the lesson, just like a clinic. And then at the end of your lesson, you'd put your horse up, do what you need to do, and come back. In between, while you're getting your horse and putting your horse up, there's a conversation going on with the other riders and with auditors. And in my clinics, I like to let auditors talk because they always have the best questions, because they're just not quite as intimately involved as a rider is sometimes. And I did just a dead trial of one with a group of people who I consider my lab rats. They're the long timers who are willing to volunteer. And it was just fabulous. And if anything, it was better for auditors. My clients are so international that I could have a rider in New Zealand and a rider in England and a couple of US riders. One person, as we got to her, she had a technical problem, but I encourage people to have, the camera running all the time. And she had a video of an earlier ride. And she said, this is what I have. And so we all talked about that video together using the screen share part of Zoom. And, I know a lot of us are on Zoom way more than we want to be right now and are not enjoying it. Here's the thing that slays me about this as a clinic. I see everybody's faces in a real immediate way, and I have a better understanding of what people are thinking. If I can see somebody with a furrowed brow, I can ask them if they have a question. And so, I think truthfully, I think it's a great learning tool. But the number one thing I love about it is that horses work from home.
That's right. In their comfort space, right?
You bet.
You're not hauling them somewhere. You're not putting them in a new environment that they're anxious about.
We get their best. I get to see their best work. Or who they are at home, which is always better than traveling. Yeah. I have a friend who's a clinician who is just so tormented by how hard it is for horses that she thinks we should never bring horses to clinics. And I'm not willing to say that. And some of the clinics that I do, I show up at a barn and everybody boards there, and a live situation is wonderful. I hope I never have to give that up. But this year I did.
Exactly. So you're preparing once we get through, and who knows when we get through this crisis, this international crisis. But do you foresee yourself doing some virtual clinics and some in-person clinics?
I don't see myself ever giving this up, because there are so many things about it that are, they're separate and different. There are so many advantages to virtual clinics that I would have never. I'm not a fan of technology. I'm learning software that makes my head explode. And here's how I can tell it's working. And this just blows me away. There is a thing that horses do around me at clinics, and they do it virtually also. That's how I can tell it's working. The horses tell me it's working. And, in a sense, I am not that anthropomorphizing Bliss Ninny horse trainer. I actually want to have the real conversation. I don't want to romanticize it.
Right.
Calming signals are about literally having the conversation in the moment. Can
you give an example?
Yeah. Some clients work with headphones. Some use a speaker. And of course, I talk to the horse. And usually live, I do it sometimes verbally, but a lot of times with my body language. I'll be communicating with the horse and the rider in lessons. And there's a thing that frequently happens at a lesson where the horse will stop what he's doing and walk over to see me. And the rider usually is horrified because it's some, big, nasty disobedience. Well, he isn't coming to me for treats. I don't hand them out. He's coming to me because I am a safe place to him. Horses want to be safe. And so I'll say, good boy, and he'll come over and visit. And I know that it's his choice, because given a choice, his rider wouldn't want that. Would think that was a bad thing. And in these virtual lessons and in the virtual clinics, the horse walks right up and looks into the camera and makes contact with me. And that's not I don't know how to explain that. It
Mhm.
looks different than when they make contact with the person holding the camera. You
Mhm.
can tell the difference.
Mhm.
And half of the time, the cameras are on tripods or mounted on fences or something like that. Um, some people, you know, there's a big setup that you can get for online lessons uh, that work differently. Solo shot is one, and you know, these cameras, they live stream and they're like $1,000 with a setup, and boy, they're tricky if you don't have great internet.
Mhm.
Well, there's also a gadget called a Pivo, Pivo, and you put your phone in it and it follows movement.
Mhm.
Um, there is a new app coming to be able to use it in a Zoom, but it's an app that you can have, you can film your rides with the camera following you.
Mhm.
And, you know, even the action of, you know, if you and I were, if I was to post a video right now on a share page, you and I could talk about it with a great amount of understanding. Um, you know, I'm just seeing such success with these classes that I'm shocked. One of the classes I teach is called Back in the Saddle, and it's for horses who have been off for a while, or riders who have been off for a while,
Mhm.
or just anybody who wants, you know, a better relationship with their horse. It's just affirmative training kind of within that frame. And, you know, people are climbing on when they haven't been on a horse in 5 years. They're having, you know, the group support
Mhm.
that you would only dream about in the real world.
Mhm.
And I'm just shocked. I'm shocked. Yeah, I think I'll go back to doing clinics, but I hope I will like them as well as what I'm doing now.
Mhm.
Because, but you know, for me before that, I mean, there were years that I did 40 clinics, and that's not being home much.
Mhm.
And so, you know, I think that this is just such an opportunity in so many ways. I started it thinking, well, it's better than nothing.
Mhm.
You know, that was the enthusiasm with which I embraced it. I didn't become a
Exactly.
horse trainer to sit in front of my computer. And I've just been shocked. It's like I've been sold on them.
Mhm.
And, you know, whether you're in a group in one place, you know, now if you and three of your friends want a clinic, you could do it.
Mhm.
And yeah, and you know, I'm just blown away by the technology. I think it changes every year. It gets a little better every year.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm sold.
There was a British report, well, he's an editor actually, who talked about at the beginning of COVID. And I think you and I talked about this before. He called it, you are beginning to see the revolution in business. And that's what we're experiencing, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
you're seeing it with this. I've seen virtual horse shows where people are actually awarded ribbons and trophies. I've
Yep.
seen virtual conversations about books. We've got virtual book clubs. You are writing your books and you're doing that. Well, you started to do that differently anyway before COVID, predated COVID, but more people are doing that. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
we're sort of all kind of rethinking what we think about our projects and our work.
Yeah. And you know, I think there was a point in time where it occurred to me that if I didn't stay up to date with technology, I'd have to hire someone else's children to bank for me. Um, and I just made the decision that I was not going to get bucked off, that I was going to ride up the levels. I'm a dressage trainer, and, you know, I've done it before. And the thing that surprises me is that it gets easier and easier. And and I agree with you. I think if you've done an online book club, and sometimes I get invited to book clubs, which is so much fun. I can't stand it because you're in somebody's house and they're all drinking wine and talking about a book. And one of the things about this group for me is we'll be watching videos of someone riding in an arena in New Zealand, and then somebody in Scotland, and then somebody in Arizona, and then somebody in Nova Scotia. And all of us, I think one of the reasons we get so hooked on each other is that we get to do a little bit of world travel while we're at it. We get to find out what the challenges of feeding a horse in New Zealand are. And
how do you manage the time differences? When you listed off all those, I was like, I'm trying to think,
how do you do that? Yeah. So I live in Colorado.
Right.
And I set them on my time. And what that ends up meaning is that I teach the classes either in the morning or the late afternoon. And if it's the late afternoon, then it's morning the next day in the Southern Hemisphere. If I'm teaching in the morning, then it's afternoon in Europe and England. And some groups go right at high noon or 1 o'clock Colorado time. And in that case, there's one client in New Zealand. You can tell she's in bed. You can see her bedside lamp. You can tell she's in her pajamas. She has gotten herself a cup of tea and she's up. And, if I were going to do a virtual clinic, well, then I might have to get up at a different time.
Right.
But, this living on the road thing is all about getting up at weird times and packing bags. And so I just don't find anything as intrusive about these meetings. And, I think for most people, it's just such a value to have an international class. Where do we ever get to do that? That they're willing to be a little inconvenienced. And sometimes there'll be somebody on the East Coast who ends up in a West class. And so, yeah, she's on the phone, on the computer at 10 o'clock at night, watching videos and talking to people. I can tell you, as a clinician, I'm a real high energy teacher. I think horses like energy, and I think they like us when we laugh. And so it's part of my job, especially as an affirmative trainer, to stay really lighthearted and energetic through the course of a day. And it's true of any clinician. I have to have the same enthusiasm for my 5 o'clock ride that I had at my 8 o'clock ride in the morning. I have to be able to look at my face, and right now I'm studiously looking at yours. I have to be able to look at my face on my computer and stay enthusiastic and keep my energy up. But, I have such a hatred of boring public speakers that it's like, oh, this is easy. And then, I'm just going to keep, if I can't get excited about a horse and rider, I should be out of this line of work. If I can't find something to get enthusiastic about in a riding lesson, well, then I should quit teaching. And it takes the same amount of energy to sit in this chair as it does to be outside all day teaching. But, that's my job, and I like my job. So, it's pretty easy. And I have to say, people get frustrated with technology. But one more time, the thing we are working on in being with our horses is to keep the negative energy out of the work that we do and to ride in a positive and affirmative way. And so it's like, yeah, okay, we got to, you know, we can't get bucked off by the technology, me or you. We have to just stumble on. And it's funny because sometimes you know, I mean, sometimes the video is lousy, but you can still read horse body language. You can read it in a heartbeat. If she can hear my voice, she can continue what she's doing. You know, one of the strange things that happens, and it's happened a few times now, somebody will get a ground person to video them, and then the ground person joins the course. And, you know, it's not that I'm, you know, wasting my client's lesson trying to sell my program to the camera person. It's that the camera person stands there, watches the horse transform, watches, you know, this affirmative process of pulling things together, and just gets so excited that they want to do it themselves. And I think the world is changing for horses right now.